I was going to say good morning, but it's good afternoon, everyone. And so glad you were able to join us today. As I thought about the premise of the panel, I kept coming back to a simple truth. Failure builds personal resilience, but can corporate failure build corporate resilience? The last decade has shown us how fragile even the most sophisticated systems can be. Shocks no longer arrive one at a time, and many of the structures we built for efficiency were not designed to bend, let alone break and rebuild. Today, corporate leadership must be prepared not only for economic turbulence, but for geopolitical shocks as well, the kind the world witnessed in our region not too long ago. In our part of the world, we had to develop certain muscle memory for resilience to geopolitical risk, given our abundant share of it. I counted, since I've been working in Saudi Arabia, 7 geopolitical events that happened during my time. The gap is clear. 97 of executives say resilience matters, but less than half believe their organizations are ready for it. So the challenge is no longer awareness, but it is planning. How do we hardwire resilience into how companies operate, govern, and respond to the unexpected? That's the conversation I'm going to have with this great panel here. So, I'm going to start with Rania Nashar, who I have known for a long time. Rania is Senior Advisor to the Governor and Head of Compliance and Governance at the PIF. Rania, why do so many organizations recognize that resilience is critical, yet fall short in readiness? And what does it truly take to build resilience through a governance structure?
Thank you, Lubna. It's an honor to be with you this afternoon. Actually, you said it all. The issue with the resilience with the companies, that companies over decades in all industries have been always built and work on optimizing their efficiencies. So they focus on governance systems, they focus on systems, processes, talent structure that leads to lean performance. So it's the formula for efficiency, but not for resilience. So that's why you see companies are built for growth and speedy growth, but not to be able to absorb any shock or be ready to overcome out that. So when it comes to governance, and I'll give example of what we do in PIF towards ensuring that governance is embedded across the board, from the tone of the board all the way to the portfolio companies, to ensure that we take resilience decisions. So it's actually the tone at the board level, where we have what we call it a resilience dashboard that is presented to the board, where we oversee the performance of the portfolio company, whether it's financial or non-financial, to identify key warning indicators that may require either intervention or having a thematic solution. Companies usually, they work throughout the years towards being ready. They train their staff, they test their systems that they need to respond only to either geopolitical tension or to system disruption, but they don't really address the key, which is having the right culture and the right decision-making and the capable resources who can anticipate what the risk should be and take fast decision-making. And this is actually, the more you have disturbances, the more, and disruptions, the more you are experienced on how to respond and anticipate in the future, how you can embrace that and bounce forward rather than just responding to a crisis or to an issue. And therefore, throughout the year, we were managing through ensuring that our board agenda is including all the stress test scenarios for either geopolitical tension or for supply chain or trade wars, and to see how that would impact the portfolio and take the right decision. Not only that, we have built our portfolio in a way to structure it into many pools that you can move the capital around them in a very fast way, yet it is risk calculated. And with all these decisions that has been taken, 4 years ago, just back in 2021, PIF was having a score of only 40% for what they call it the GSR index, which is governance, sustainability, and resilience by the Sovereign Wealth Fund Global. And now just in 4 years, in 2025, we have scored 100% compliance. And this was actually mentioned in all the rating agencies' report that it's due to the governance and due to the agility in the decision making, we were able to thrive through all the crises and take the right decision. Because PIF, in its mandate or design, it is designed to help in the overall Saudi economy resilience by diversifying from the oil-dependent economy to non-oil-dependent economy, and by having PIF playing a catalyst role, we are a key player in the overall nation resilience.
Very interesting. It would be great to get to know how you calculate it and how you arrive at it. Sonny Mann is the newly elected chair for Baker McKenzie, a company I'm quite acutely familiar with. Congratulations, Sonny, on your new position. Sonny, you have been in the front line of advising some of the largest multinationals on responding to geopolitical disruption over the last few years. What have you been counseling them to do to ensure corporate readiness in a disrupted world? We heard from what PIF, but what have you been telling your wide international audience, corporate audience?
Thank you. So, ahlan wa sahlan bil jama'i. Just wanted to start off by saying a personal sense of gratitude to everyone here, to the FII team, but also to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia for the wonderful hospitality that I and many of my colleagues have been experiencing over the last couple of days as well. So, and you're right, Lubna, it's a pleasure that as a global chairman, not even 1 week in seat, that my first overseas visit and my first external event is here as well. So thank you for that, Lubna. But Lubna, you're right. I'm a trade and investment lawyer by training. And over the last 5-6 years, we've been supporting around a quarter of the Fortune 100, the FTSE 100, the French CAC 40, the German DAX 40, on responding to intense geopolitical disruption, whether it is Brexit, intense tariff wars today, emerging tensions between West and East. And when I think about all of the work we've done, I think there are 2 core principles that really I would pull out of that, and I'm seeing companies really coalescing around. First off, it's diversification. If you think about corporate strategy, when we come to things like where your customer base is, your supply chain, where your data resides, where your funds flow, who your business and investment partners are, you need to ensure there's sufficient diversity across the board in terms of the countries that are involved, but also the business partners. Because if you are overly reliant on a single market, a single economy, or a single partner, today, that is a vulnerability. Because as we have seen, because of events recently, things turn quickly. The second principle I put out there is one of opportunity. So it is absolutely true. There's a lot of risk in this new world order that businesses are navigating. But when you reshuffle the card deck, which is what has happened globally, there's also opportunity if you look for it. Because, Lubna, the multilateral world order has been replaced by what is now a complex patchwork of bilateral trade, investment, and M&A relationships. And so that does mean that companies need to do their homework to understand what is happening in that bilateral relationship between US, UK, Japan, Brazil, France, Australia. But there's also opportunity. We are seeing many more FTAs either having been signed or being negotiated, and that is a wonderful opportunity for business to start getting their goods, services, and capital flowing. So I think the final point I'd say is, within this world of risk, there is opportunity if you look for it, and I'm seeing that companies who really have that success mindset are really exploring the opportunities as well.
Thank you, very interesting. Turning to Diane, in the context of all the uncertainty we're dealing with today, we've spoken about the geopolitical tensions, tech disruptions, market volatility. What's your take on efficiency versus efficiency based on resilience? How should companies be rethinking this approach?
Thank you. Thank you very much. And it's an honor for me to stay here in this panel discussion about resilience, actually. I think today, the efficiency have a very interesting change in the definition. Now, the efficiency need to be based on resilience. Because this honor to talk about what happened in the world today is a new order. So in the new order, we have a different definition of efficiency. The efficiency needs to have moderate buffer, need to have the shock resistant kind of the system. And because I'm the financial institution in Hong Kong, from the financial institution perspective, I have two fundamental factors. I think they will redefine this kind of efficiency. One is you need to build an open source mindset system. It's more like ecosystem. It's not dependent on one factor, one supply chain, one location, and even one business model. You need to change and have the capacity to adjust and to have your second growth curve. Make an example, before the pandemic, many of the Chinese companies have already built their factories, supply chains, and even manufacturing centers overseas. After the pandemic, actually, all this model of local manufacturing and the regional distribution really works. And it meets the demand of the clients and have very rapid response, and through the logistics, it pays out. So that is the open source kind of the mindset looks like. And the second one I think is very interesting. I like to use the option analogy because you see, from a financial perspective, it's more like the resilience investment is you pay a fixed rate premium for perpetual call option for your own company. Because, we talk about uncertainty, we talk about the volatility, we talk about everything that will happen. From the option, we always learned in school, the more the volatility, the more those kind of uncertainties, the greater value the option. You see, that's more like you buy a perpetual call option for your companies, all this talent reserve for your governance, and even sometimes you need extra, insufficient capital investment in something that you think won't happen in the future. Like Pfizer, Pfizer invented the mRNA before the pandemic. It pays out. It's more like an option investment from my perspective. So thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you. Karim Awad, Group CEO of EFG Hermes. Karim comes from Egypt. So EFG Holdings has been through a lot of turmoil, 2 revolutions, and multiple currency devaluations. Karim, can you tell the audience, how did you navigate through all this, and was resilience core to the way you did it? I just have to say, I'm told we have to move fast.
Okay. Thank you for having me. I think for us, resilience was not a choice. It had to be either you survive as a company, or so you had to be resilient. You had to change your business model. I think a wise man once told me before, because we were built when the revolution happened, we were built on a pure capital markets business, and that became super volatile. And so the first thing that we had to do to build a resilient model is control what we had under our control, which was our cost base. So we started cutting our costs, became leaner to make sure that any further shocks that come in the future, we're ready for. The second, to your point, Lubna, on breaking your business model in order to become resilient, we had a bank in Lebanon. We were comfortable with it. We felt that it was bringing us profits every year, but it was not synergistic with our business, and we felt that to build a resilient structure, this would not cut. So we sold the business, pivoted it, and to Sunny's point, we started a diversification strategy, not only on geographical basis, so we had offices here in Saudi, in Kuwait, in UAE, but we started having an actual presence with more business that is being conducted and a lot more effort that is being put into these markets as opposed to our home market. And then finally, we also wanted to diversify products-wise, so that we're not only volatile to capital markets, we have other products that give us annuities and make sure that the business is shock-ready for anything that comes in the future. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Very clear. Last but not least, Eric Cantor, Vice Chair and Managing Director of Moelis and former U.S. House Majority Leaders. Now, for the audience here, I should tell you that Eric and I go quite a long time back, and I was given permission to impose on him a little bit. So, one of the first times I went to Eric is when there was government shutdown in the US, the first government shutdown. And I said, Eric, could you explain to me how can a country operate in government shutdown? I guess it falls very good into building resilience. So you've had moments of real political and economic volatility in Washington. What does resilient leadership look like truly in practice? And can you tell us that the governments, and the US governments, and the private sector structure can absorb all these shocks and can leave it stronger?
Lumna, a pleasure to be here. And we'll leave the shutdown and the discussion about that, predictions as to when we reopen aside. But I will talk about resilience, because we are, since we first welcomed you into the shutdown world of Washington, and you were amazed things were still going on. But I do think, our government, it's not too dissimilar to what the government and the vision of the Crown Prince here in Saudi Arabia has done for this kingdom. This Crown Prince recognized 10 years ago or so that there were certain things that needed to be done to make sure that the kingdom could go forward, and Rania talked about it, and diversify the economy and create the jobs and opportunity for citizens here. Well, our government, we as an American people experienced a real lesson learned during COVID. People woke up and they understood there were a lot of things that were just untended to, that we realized, from critical supplies and pharmaceuticals to manufacturing of simple things like bathroom tissue, that we were just relying upon other people. And so there's, in a sense, with the current Trump administration, there's been a return to the very straightforward things that we have been missing. And it is very much tied to the national interest of resilience, competition, and becoming that America that we were and will be again. So it's manufacturing, it's making sure that we have the critical minerals to continue this AI advancement. And frankly, it is also, and you've heard our president talk a lot about the need for others to bear their fair share. That America, we had been absorbing a lot of cost, and whether it was in the biopharma area, which is a great example, we pay 3 times what it is that other countries pay for drugs. And you see this playing out in our country again as well. So it really is a return to what makes sense economically, and from a business standpoint, and from clients at Moelis, what we're doing is we're having a lot of discussions with government agencies when they reopen about the commitment of capital that this administration and the Congress have made towards these critical industries for the success and national security of America that will also make sense for our clients from a financial and economic return standpoint.
I'm curious, how long can the government shutdown be, and for how long, what's the longest time it's been in the past?
Well, the longest time it's been was, I think, 35 days, and this was the 2018 to 19 over the winter Christmas holiday.
Wow. And no pay then, right? That's risky.
So, well, listen, we started back with President Obama, and it was caused by the debt ceiling discussion and leverage around that. But what I believe will reopen this government is this sense that there are 1,700,000 federal employees. And this week, they don't all get paid on the same day, but employees will begin to get paychecks that reflect no monies. They won't get paychecks for a period of time. Some of these people are working too, because if you're deemed essential, there may be, 500,000 people in our airports, at our borders, they've got to come to work and yet not getting paid. So this will put pressure on, I think ultimately the system will respond. There's the healthcare issue out there that will also play a role November 1st. So shortly.
Okay. We've heard the view from international, China, Egypt, the US, and Saudi Arabia, the global investor. We have 2 minutes left. You've all emphasized how important governance is, but how is culture and risk in building this resilient? And how willing is the board, how good is the board of directors listening and the top people? Anybody wants to venture? But half a minute so we can give others.
Sure. This is really great question, because you mentioned the 3 important pillars for resilience. So culture basically is the foundation. When you have a board that has clear vision, that empower the employees, as well as keep training them on adaptability, so this is the foundation. Then the risk comes as the tool. And with the AI being introduced, you can generate more stress test scenarios and be adaptive to it. And then the governance is basically the architecture that amalgam all these pillars.
Eric, would you like to comment?
Well, I do think that I agree, Rania. It's the vision. It is the inspiration that, where is the opportunity? And what I said is going on in our country and with many of our clients today, it is this realization of opportunity, having learned lessons from the lack of resilience. I think there's a danger in trying to fight the last war. We can't look backwards, we need to look forward. So when we're talking about resilience, it's got to be about opportunity.
Anybody?
I think having a supportive board of directors is extremely important, and that is because in order to build a resilient model, you have to break things again, and you have to have a patient board, because sometimes breaking things means that you do not have the actual quarterly earnings that you want to achieve, and that things take time to build. So you have to have a very supportive board in order to be resilient.
Very good point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that is very important, especially, I think the culture is the most important thing. The 2 factors, one thing that Eric talked about is look forward. That's very important. The second thing is open mind. Open mind kind of the mindset in your whole governance. And, there is saying that if you cannot control the wind, you have the ability to navigate the sail, right? That's the most important, ability in your culture. Yeah.
Last word.
10 seconds. There's a principle in the Punjabi culture called Chardi Kala. It means when you face challenge and adversity, face it with optimism and resilience. I'd invite all of us as business leaders to take that approach.
Sunny, you closed it so well. Big applause to a great panelist. Thank you. Thank you.